Guys, I got a story time for y'all, and it is so crazy, so sad. I'm telling y'all guys, like, I truly believe that God put me here to help people. So on my other account, I was telling people about this guy who I saw at the bus stop, and he was thrown on the floor, and everybody was walking by him, and nobody even checked on him. And I was talking about compassion. Well, check it out. This morning, right? I'm by the Haven for Hope, and I'm going to my doctor, and this little girl stops, and she asked me, she's like, "Hey, do you know any shelters for teens?" And I said, "Shelters for teens?" I said, "Well, you didn't go to next door to the Haven for Hope?" She said, "Yeah." She goes, "I just went, but they said that they were gonna call ICE on me." I said, "What?" She goes, "Yeah, they threatened to call ICE on me." I said, "And you're looking for help for yourself?" She says, "Yes." She says, "I'm 16 years old." She said, "And I'm pregnant." I said, "You're pregnant?" She goes, "Yeah." I said, "What?" I said, "How far along are you?" She said, "5 months." I said, "What the hell?" So in the mix of all that, one of the other girls that know me, she's walking up to tell me hi, and she's, she's ear hustling. She overhears the story. So I tell the little girl, I said, "Look, man," I said, "I just gotta go in here to get my medication real quick." I said, "And I'll be right back out." I said, "Please wait for me." I said, I'll try to help you." I said, "I'll do my best to help you." I said, "Please just wait for me." So the other homegirl tells her, "Yeah, man, Angel's good people. Angel will help you." Because I didn't want the girl to get scared. I mean, come on, they just threatened to call ICE on her at the Haven for Hope. You know what I mean? I didn't want her to think that I was trying to set her up, go inside and call ICE to get her in trouble. You know what I'm saying? So the homegirl tells her, "Nah, dude, Angel's good people. Angel will help you." You know? So I'm like, "Yeah, mija, just please wait for me, please." So she's like, "All right." So I go inside, man, and I take a little bit longer than what was expected, right? So I'm like, "Man, I hope she's there." So sure enough, dude, I come out and hold on. Okay, that's right. Sure enough, I come out, guys, and the girl's like, "There she is, there she is." My homegirl, she's like, "There she is, there she is." And the girl's like relieved to see me, right? And I'm like, "I told you, I was gonna come back for you." I said, "Come on, let's go." So I take her to my counselor, well, to one of the counselors that I talked to, and I'm like, well, she wasn't at the front. When I went to go take her to the counselor, check out how God is. It's so crazy. When I went to go to the next counselor to go tell her what was going on, she was busy talking to somebody. Somebody was standing behind her talking to her. So I said, "Let me just wait till she's done, because that counselor, man, she fights for us. She's a good woman. She's a good worker." So I trust her that to take care of this girl, right? So as soon as 15, 20 minutes we wait, and then that lady stops talking to my counselor and she walks away. So I start walking up. When I start walking up, my counselor starts pointing like that, and I was like, "Me?" And she's like, "No." And she's pointing at the little girl, and I'm like, "Her?" Because I'm like, how does she even know what's going on? You know what I mean? How does she know this shit? So as we walking up, she goes, "Yeah," she goes, "Look, that lady told me, overheard. So happened that the girl that I was waiting for my counselor to stop talking to, that was another counselor, and she overheard the little girl telling me stuff, and she went to go tell my counselor what was going on." So I didn't even have to tell her nothing, and they were working while I was waiting those 15 minutes. They were working on places to try to find her. So I didn't even have to tell her nothing. So then try to make a long story short, they go and they start looking at her places and stuff like that. I wait around for a little bit because I want to know that she's okay. She comes out after like about an hour and a half, and she's like, I said, "Did they help you?" She said, "Yeah." She's like, "They gave me this place to go to, and it was way over there off of Mission Road." She was like, "How do I get over there?" So I started looking it up, and check it out, God is good again. So I started looking it up, right? And I said, "You know what, let's go inside because it's hot." So I go back inside where the counselor was, where she was getting all the help from, and as we're inside and I'm looking it up, guys, another counselor comes out and says, guess what she says? She says that she's going to take the little girl all the way there. So we didn't even have to worry about her, not finding it or her getting lost or whatever. So yeah, she took the little girl all the way there, dude. But it was just so sad, that she was 16 years old and having to go through that. She was barely going to be 17 in November. But it was sad, guys, because I forgot to answer. Like, she was pregnant. She said that she didn't want the baby, guys. She was sad. She didn't want her baby. And I guess I can understand at this time in her life, in this moment, in her second, she's probably thinking like, I can't even take care of me. The baby's just gonna suffer. But at the same time, guys, like, I wanted to take her in and have her live with me. But then I started thinking, because her story kind of didn't match up. First of all, she said that she wasn't here, right? She was illegal. So I told her, I said, "Well, when did you get here?" She said, "A year ago." Okay, check it out. She had no accent. She didn't speak Spanish. So where did she come from? You know what I'm saying? So I'm thinking that she might be lying. I don't know, because I said, "Well, why don't you have an ID and why don't you have food stamps?" Because I said, "Do you have food stamps?" Because how they were helping all the people, all the ones seeking asylum, they were helping them with food stamps. So I told her, "Why don't you have food stamps?" She said she had been here a year ago, and then that's when she said that she had just got here a year ago. And so, that didn't make sense to me. And then her not having an accent or speaking Spanish didn't make sense to me. And then I started thinking, y'all remember that Russian girl that she got adopted by an American family, and she ended up being like a 20-30-year-old woman with a rare condition that made her look, like a kid. And the only reason why I found out was because she started her cycle. Like, yeah, so I started thinking about that. Not only that, like, I have a primo who we thought his chick was gonna have a baby, and all the way up until the time she was supposed to give birth, and she never gave birth. She lied the whole time. So, I'm just glad that I did my part as much as I could. I found her help if I could. But this is what I'm talking about being nice, man, and helping people. Other people, when I would mention the story about the guy at the bus stop where it was like, "Oh, well, you can't help those who don't want to help themselves," whatever. But like how I said, bro, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, dude. If somebody's asking for help or you see somebody that needs help, what is it for you to help them? Look at me. I don't have no money, you know what I'm saying? But I helped that little girl as much as I could. You know what I'm saying? What was an hour or two? Well, it was a little bit longer. That was like 2.5 hours out of my day, bro, if I wasn't doing nothing today. You know what I mean? To help her, make sure that she was safe, and hopefully get her off the streets. This is what I'm talking about people having compassion and helping out others, man. Like, that little girl, she's 16 years old, man. She shouldn't be out on the streets. What happened to her? What's her story? You know what I'm saying? Unfortunately, there's too many kids that are like that. And then, like how I said, they're broken, they're hurt, and then they meet other people, the wrong people, and then they fall into the wrong crowd, and they become addicts and stuff like that. Because reality, the pain of real life, dude, is just so much. So again, guys, y'all try to be nice to each other, love each other, spread love in the world, guys, because you never know what people are going through, man. People suffer a lot. The world is a very cold place, man. A very cold place.